Good day and welcome to the latest episode. This time it's about the Cleveland Museum of Art. It's a great location whenever you cannot pick your weather, like it happened to me just recently. A good friend of mine was visiting from Germany and we had all kinds of plans like hiking and visiting downtown. And guess what? It was raining cats and dogs all day long. So we had to reschedule a little bit and ended up spending most of the time in the Museum of Art. If you have any kind of interest in history or just want to expand your horizon a little bit, the Cleveland Museum of Art is really for everybody and you should definitely check this place out. Apologies in advance for the rather mediocre video quality. All the footage was shot on my phone. I really didn't want to bring in a big camera in a place where people want to reminisce or just focus on arts. I felt like it might be a little bit distracting to these people, and unless the museum invites me back to film with my real gear, I think you guys just have to live with that. Enjoy the tour, and now let's get started. The Cleveland Museum of Art is located east of Cleveland downtown in the University Circle neighborhood, and this area is particularly famous for all its cultural spaces as well as green space and of course the university. So the Museum of Art is located right next to a couple of other great places. For example, the Cleveland Botanical Garden, the Western Reserve Historical Society, and our Museum of Natural History. Some other spaces, for example, are the Contemporary Art Museum and the Severance Hall, which has one of the best orchestras in the world. Most of you will enter the museum through the lower level, where you will park your car in the garage, which is unfortunately not free of charge. It's around $14, but you can park there for the whole day. And it makes a lot of sense to combine it with a visit to the Botanical Gardens or the Museum of Natural History, which are right next door. The entrance to the museum itself is free of charge though. Aside from that, the lower level doesn't really have anything to offer, with the exception of the special exhibition galleries. Those are typically paid special events. If you've never visited the museum before, I would suggest to skip those because the museum itself is already overwhelming and definitely can keep you busy for a whole day. Level 1 is where you will start your tour, and if you have not parked your car in the garage, you probably will enter the museum through the north entrance. Level 1 is a mix of galleries as well as some amenities and shops and stores. You will continue your tour on level 2, which really consists only of galleries. There's a north wing, south wing, west wing, east wing, and depending on the time of the year, you will also have the south entrance there, and it grants you access to a beautiful park, basically the backyard of this wonderful museum, which you will see later on in this video. As I mentioned earlier, the Cleveland Museum is located in the beautiful University Circle neighborhood. If you arrive here in the summer, you can take a bike and look it up right here. Otherwise, as I already said, you will probably enter through the garage. In both cases, your first stop will be the ticket center, where you will have two choices. Either you continue straight through and enter the big atrium, or you take a turn to the left and visit the Artlands Gallery. I highly recommend that place if you interactively want to learn more about arts and how you navigate around in a museum. And while I think it's a must-do for children, it's also for anybody else who has not enjoyed a detailed education about arts and how museums are organized. To me, it was a really great learning experience to understand how I can find specific content that I'm interested in the museum. And it's highly interactive, it's a ton of fun, and you really should give it a try. Also, please make sure to check out the Artlands wall, which is a gigantic touchscreen where you can organize arts by patterns, colors, or other personal preferences, and then download your favorite art pieces to the ArtLens app on your phone, and the app then will tell you where exactly you can find these pieces in the museum. Pretty cool, give it a try. Eventually you will enter the wonderful Atrium, and it's a beautiful hall and just a great place to hang out. Even if you don't want to visit the museum, I just like the vibe in there. I really could sit there for hours and just read a book or enjoy the time there. Located in and around the atrium are amenities such as bathrooms, ATMs, potable water stations, but also the museum store, the tour meet area and information area, and the Little Provenance Cafe and restaurant. Just grab a chair and a table and enjoy the wonderful atmosphere in the atrium, either before you start your tour or in the middle of it when you want to do a break. It's always a great spot to recover and relax. Your whole journey starts in gallery number 100, and make sure to grab one of the maps along the way, because these gallery numbers really help you to discover the museum in a chronological order, which in my opinion was one of the main highlights. Even as somebody who is not really familiarized with arts, I really found it impressive to see how it all changed over thousands of years, or sometimes even within decades. And gallery number 100 is where it all begins. The Stargazer is an over 5,000-year-old statue, and it's the starting point of the ancient arts galleries stretching over several hundred years BC. And you will see a good mix of reliefs, small statues and sculptures, as well as some jewelry. Here, for example, some ancient Iran arts. And you really can see how the details are increasing from age to age. So once you're entering the Greek era, you'll have extensive art in form of pottery. You could also learn, for example, the difference between red figure and black figure pottery. So you can see here in this video, some of the vases have red figures, and then some others, like this one here on the left, has black figures. And these are two different ways to color these vases. Another gallery is about ancient Egypt, and there is a big coffin in there with many details, hieroglyphs and paintings. Look at this, quite impressive in my opinion. It's actually one of my favorite eras. You will see real tombstones, some statues and other mummies, or better say coffins where they have their mummies in there. Very intriguing. Now, moving forward, you will reach the medieval age, and what's really crazy about this era are the relics. You see this here, these are actually bones. This one here is a finger bone within a reliquary, and it's kind of a little bit of disgusting, but well, for them it was holy relics, and they marched around with that, believing that this will protect them. And maybe it did. We'll probably not find out in this life, but it's very interesting how times changed from Egypt and the Greeks and Romans over this Christian focused time frame. Look at all these details. One of the most impressive things here in this era, in my opinion, are actually the books. They're all handwritten. The whole design, the paintings here are all handmade. You better don't make a mistake. You would immediately see that. And for me, it's unbelievable how they did that. I mean, you probably had to dedicate your whole life in order to achieve that. Very different from today, where you spend most of the time on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook or whatever. So, well, let's see how art will look like a few hundred years later, because we will also take a look at contemporary art, of course. This painting here is one of my favorites. I just like how it tells a whole story. It shows Schloss Hartenfels near Berlin, also called the Bärenzwinger. And yeah, you can see they are hunting bears here. One is up on the tree, another one is ripping apart some people and dogs. They're also hunting deer. The dogs are chasing those down. Poor little fellas, they don't really have any chance here. It's quite a well-organized hunt. And I don't know, I mean, maybe you don't like it at all, but I just find it so cool how there are so many little stories within this painting. So you could really pick just one corner of the picture, let's say the bottom right one, and probably discuss couple of minutes just about this scene, what's happening on there, and well, how cruel actually these hunts have been in the past. But it probably depicts a pretty real picture, and I can only imagine what a mess and massacre this must have been a couple of hundred years ago. Here's another pretty shocking one showing the head of Saint John the Baptist. Salome is basically being advised by her mother to demand the head of this poor guy. And that's what she does, and that's how the head ends up on this plate here. So that's medieval art, very different from what we see today. The level 1 tour basically concludes with some Islamic art, like this mihrab here, a so-called prayer niche. And again, a lot of details here. Look at this, pretty impressive again. For me, I mean, that's why it's called arts, right? Not everybody can do that. I certainly cannot. This concludes the first level, and basically you've only seen maybe 20% of the whole museum. So if you've spent half a day there already, which you easily could, it's time to move one level up. Even though the map suggests otherwise, I would highly recommend to start in the armor court, because chronologically that makes most sense. It continues basically your journey from the medieval time and shows all kinds of plate armor and weapons from the medieval time frame. You'll enter the armor court from the rotunda, which you should automatically end up when you take the stairs or the elevator. And you really can't miss it. It's a gigantic hall with a big knight on his horse in the middle of the room. And well, as the name suggests, a ton of plate armor from the medieval ages. Just walk around there and enjoy all the great details that are shown here. If you have any affinity to this time frame, I'm sure you will love it. There's really so much to see, and it's really cool. Even while Michael appears, whoop, and look at this big byhander. And I asked Michael to walk by to just show how big this is. It was more like a showcase weapon, but still dangerous. And here you can see a plate armor for these joust fighters who had to wear really heavy armor because the forces are so strong when they are riding towards each other. And if you like Game of Thrones or the new series House of the Dragon, I would say what they show is pretty authentic. This here looks a little heavier in terms of the armor. Look at these bolts and joints. So I guess if you had an injury and somebody had to help you out of this armor, you really needed a lot of help because this is nothing where you can just slip in and out. So pretty impressive. And then all of a sudden, this heavy armor disappeared because of these little fellas here that are just more efficient and effective when it comes to war. Once you've had enough from the armor court, just continue with galleries 201, 202 and so on. You will see some neoclassical, British, American, Baroque and late Baroque art. and eventually end up in the foyer, where you will find the south entrance, and hopefully the weather permits on that day and you have the chance to step out. The south terrace features a beautiful park and outdoor area where you can just hang out and relax after going through the whole museum. Here in front of you is a statue called the Thinker. It was bombed in 1970, and fortunately a good part of the statue survived, so it's still exhibited here, but unfortunately it is damaged. And aside from that, as you can see, it's just a beautiful park. You can actually also walk into the museum from that side of the building, and it also has a beautiful fountain and some benches and just a ton of options to recover after you have walked through probably a bunch of exhibits. Another highlight is the little pond, which is also beautiful, and overall this area kind of embodies the whole beauty of the University Circle area. You'll find many other places in this specific neighborhood that are equally beautiful, and it's just a great opportunity for a break. Back indoors, you will encounter the late 18th, early 19th century paintings from famous American artists such as Thomas Cole. These paintings really are typically showing beautiful nature scenes, and I really like these pictures. I don't know if they have all a deeper meaning or not. You'd have to read the texts here, but some are just beautiful to look at. And I mean, look at this here. It reminds me a little bit of the Smoky Mountain area. This one here as well, and it's beautiful. If I could afford such a picture, I would probably hang it in my home. But yeah, unfortunately, it will only suffice for a reprint. So overall, you can find the American and British art in the remaining galleries. This one here is depicting a famous Shakespeare scene of, I think it's Hamlet. And then you see some portraits, some furniture. It's a good mix to really let you dive in the whole era and time, and you kind of, it's very immersive in my opinion. It's a very immersive experience. So it really gives you the opportunity to relive an era that you probably have not been part of. This one here is kind of funny. I like the glasses. Pretty cool stuff. And then you move on to the 20th century US American arts. Next, we enter the East Wing, which gives you access to Impressionism, contemporary art, modern art, some photo galleries. So we'll enter the 21st century time frame, and this is also going to be very exciting. Walking along the aisle through the West Wing gives you some additional nice views onto the University Circle. I really like the big glass windows here. And you can already see the next showroom. It's called the Glass Box, and they always have some different showcases in there, some different art pieces. In this case, it's a Front International 2022 exhibit from Firelei Baez. I probably pronounced his name wrong, but he's an American artist showing an installation which is part of an ongoing series in which he reimagines the archaeological ruins of the Sans Souci Palace in northern Haiti, underscoring its position as an enduring symbol of healing and resistance. So very inspiring. And on we go to the famous painters of the 20th century. And one painting you may feel like it's kind of familiar with you. If you have seen the new Facebook ad about their metaverse, this picture should look familiar to you. It shows the tiger and the buffalo, and it's actually the title of this painting. And it's from the French artist Henri Rousseau, 1908. And Facebook made a whole advertisement out of that, how they entered into the metaverse, basically. This one here may also be familiar to you. There is a whole section of Picasso paintings, and it's very interesting. I didn't know much about Picasso. Obviously, he's a famous painter, and his artwork is very valuable. But I personally didn't know much about him, and it seems he entered different stages in his life. This one was, for example, during a very depressing stage, and his artwork changed accordingly. The whole style changed accordingly. Isn't that interesting? I think this is really where a museum can help you to understand and comprehend art and artists. And of course, the famous pop art, is that correct? Showing Marilyn Monroe cannot be missed here. And yeah, you can see now we are entering modern and contemporary art. This was kind of scary a little bit, but there was nothing inside. The whole art kind of is changing. The material is changing. You see many more different materials, like here, for example. Also, the artwork itself typically has grown in size and in shape. And you really have to read the info text to understand the intention behind this artwork. This one here is a special photo gallery. It's a temporary exhibition. Last time I was visiting the museum, they showed a bunch of pop art graphics. So they changed this exhibition room all the time. And it's included in the free entrance. So you don't have to pay extra to visit this hall. The next one is a great example of how powerful the message of art can be if you really understand it. Each of these thousands of burnt ceramic stones stands for a victim caused by drugs and cartels in the artist's Mexican neighborhood. To me, this was a real eye-opener to understand what people mean when they say you have to understand the message of the artist to fully appreciate the artwork. Of course, the Cleveland Museum of Art also has some local artists, like this painting here, which shows all the most important spots in Cleveland, like the Brown Stadium, the, what do we have here? The Tribe. So yeah, this obviously doesn't show the Cleveland Guardians, but still the old Indians. And I hope they leave it as is, because when it comes to arts, you really should not rip that out of the contemporary context. 1970s, you enter the pattern area. Artists played around with patterns and colors, like you can see here or here. And I think this is actually contemporary art. And since I probably have no idea what I'm talking about, please correct me in the comment section. This oil painting from John Rogers Cox, an American artist, shows the United States on their crossroads in the combat against the spread of fascism in Europe and Asia. When you're done in the East Wing, you continue your tour in the North Building, where you will find some native North American arts, ancient American arts, and textiles, as well as Japanese, Korean, and Himalayan arts. So a very nice mix of different cultures. And again, the museum really utilizes technology in a great way to make the whole experience more immersive. And you can learn a lot of details about manufacturing and creating crafting arts. Here it's about the textiles that I mentioned as a special exhibit of the North Building, followed by some Himalayan arts like these statues and this sculpture here. Another exhibit is about Japan, which is a little larger. I first thought this pottery here is from China, but it's actually Japanese plates and bowls. Beautiful, aren't they? So you continue now over to the West Wing,
And this will now conclude the whole museum tour with diving into the Chinese, Indian, and Southeast Asian culture. Chinese arts often includes these fantasy animals like this one here, which is a tomb guardian. And another thing about China are their paint scrolls, which are several yards or meters long. And you can see they tell whole stories. This one here was particularly interesting to look at, but also along the walls they have hanged a couple of these Chinese paint scrolls, like you can see here. They are even more elaborate in terms of details. So a very different way of painting compared to European and American art. Then you will also see some decorative art, like these little bowls and statues. I think this is a mahogany table. Overall, another well-rounded showcase. Here you see some of their gods. And now we are heading over to the Southeast Asian exhibit, and particularly India. So what you see here is all about India. You probably can recognize it just by looking at the way the statues are designed. And similar to the East Wing, the West Wing also has a glass box. This here is about India, and it shows one of those more famous artworks, like this one here is Nataraja, the Shiva as the Lord of Dance, as well as this Ganesha here, which is the god of wealth and abundance. Eventually, all good things come to an end. You'll take the escalators downstairs to level 1 or the parking garage by leaving through the Atrium. Again, it's such a beautifully designed building. I just love it. And that is it. The museum tour is over.
Hopefully you enjoyed the little museum tour, and if you have not been convinced before to visit this place, maybe you changed your opinion now and give it a try. As I mentioned earlier, it's free of charge, so you have nothing really to lose. Just check this place out, see how it resonates with you, and regardless of your decision, please give me a thumbs up and let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And if you have not already done so, please subscribe to my channel and have a fantastic day. See you soon.